Hey guys, welcome back! Better Than a Let's Play episode 27. I'm Enigmus. And today we're back working on the testificate penthouse. Now, this isn't a super long video, which for some of you is fantastic. Some of you might be a little bit disappointed, but we're in super crazy detail mode, which means things take a long time, and there's not always something to show for it. So we're putting in the time. We're just trying to make sure that we're doing things properly the first time around, because having to tear this whole thing down and start from scratch just isn't going to be an option. Now you can see here I built this sort of section you saw in the last episode. We built it out so that it's flush with the outer edge of the platform that all of this is being built on. This is the top floor of our mountain project. And now, after having built in just sort of the skeleton of the structure, I decided that I wanted to put something on top that was maybe a little bit interesting. And this was a little bit tricky because I wanted to use the micro blocks to put some curves on it, some subtle curves, matching the front profile of the structure that it's on. And then also something that was different from a rectangular kind of shape sitting on top. It reminds me of a sail. That's the word that keeps running through my mind when I think of how I would describe this, is that it's a sail. But obviously, it's attached to a mountain and it's made out of stone. So even if it was a sail, it wouldn't be taking us anywhere. It would just be sitting there being silly as something that is not a sail. So you get the idea. You get at least what I'm trying to go with here, is that it's not necessarily, well, it's definitely not a functional addition to the structure. And on its own, it looks pretty awful, truth be told. But I realized as I was doing it, and right about the point now in the video, that either I'm going to have to pull it down and do something different, or I'm going to have to find a way to make it so that I'll be happy with this, because it's crunch time. And what I realized is that we're going to be doing another detail on the layer below this top layer that will actually take some of the focus away from this sail. So this will actually be sort of a secondary visual component of what we're doing. So I was actually reasonably confident that we could make it work. Now I've actually swung around to the other side so that we can actually see what we're doing. I don't normally go to this side for the time lapse, but this time obviously it made perfect sense. It's time to put a roof on the testificate penthouse. Now, a person might be wondering, why do you even need a roof? There's already a roof there. It's got the arch. It's got all the hardened dirt on top of the arch. For those of you who are familiar with the author David Eddings, he has this particular style where his characters tend to be, or at least some of his characters tend to be, very practical and very wise in common sense sort of areas. And they came to this area where it was a similar situation. It was a cavern with dwellings inside, and all the dwellings have roofs, even though they had solid stone cavern above them. And someone said, why would you need a roof when you've got all this stone above them? And this very wise, intelligent person pointed out, to keep the heat in. So if you're lighting a fire, you only have to heat the dwelling. You don't have to heat the entire cavern with the fire before you notice the benefits of the heat. Pretty smart, pretty smart. So that's why I don't feel silly about putting a roof in this thing when there's another roof directly above it. But what I do want to do with this roof is, again, try and incorporate some level of visual interest. We could easily do a flat roof. We could do some straight angles to it. We could do any number of different things. But we're going with that subtle rounded detail throughout this entire build so far. And I decided to continue with that as best I could. It's not easy. It's actually a very tricky thing to do. Especially when we start talking about intersecting curves, because we don't have the full selection of blocks that we'd need in order to allow that to happen. It's just the way it works out. So we have to be a little bit careful how we approach these things, and then make sure that in the execution process we're doing it in sort of stages. I'm not trying to do 3 or 4 different rounded sections at a time. I'm doing like one at a time. And then I may switch to another side once I get a segment done that I know I'm happy with, say for example along the top. Then I'll do a little bit of this side. and see how that's working out. And as long as it's still working out, then we know we're good to go for another segment across the top. Things of that nature, trying to keep things simple in my mind as best I can, instead of trying to keep track of too many different things and trying to think too far ahead and just getting too worked up about things that don't matter and making a mess of things before I even have a chance to do it right. And that's actually served me pretty well in this stage. Overall, having obviously recorded all the footage and looked back on it, I can say that I'm pretty happy with the way it worked out, but there were times when I thought maybe we were pushing it. You can see already that we've got sort of that curving from the low side on the right side there of the roof, and then it's curving up and it kind of slowly, gradually tapers. It looks almost as if it could go flat by the time we get to the far edge of things, but we never really go flat if we can avoid it. So many microblocks. I've actually switched to diamond saws because they're not that expensive to make, 1 diamond per saw, and they just last so much longer than the stone ones. So I've got, I think I made a half dozen diamond saws and put them in my backpack, so hopefully that gets us through this build, because the trip back to the central towers is starting to feel a little bit oldish. We've done it a few times, and now we just want to build. That's our thing. So that's kind of what we've been doing this last little while. When I've been playing Minecraft, I've been working on this and trying to come up with the ideas for the build that would bring us to where I'm happy with it, because we've got a lot more to build as we move down towards the current ground level before we even start thinking about abducting our first testificates. So we'll see how it goes. We're basically going to finish off this level here in this episode. A little bit later on, we'll come in and we'll divide it and we'll put in the doors so that we get the word that I don't know. The population, that's what I'm looking for. The testificate population increase that we get from having doors and structures and stuff. You know what I mean? It's a thing. We're going to worry about that later. For now, we just want it to look neat. So I'll let you finish watching me put this in place. You can kind of ponder over the angles and curves, and then in the next episode we will be down 1 level, starting a new shapes, new stuff going on, and still having fun, still really enjoying the build. So leave your comments and feedback below. As always, you can subscribe to my channel if you want to be notified when I add the next video. You can follow me on Twitter at Enigmius1 for the same reason. And Google Plus, taking over the universe. You can follow me there, or something. Be notified. It's great. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.